I'm Eugene Low. Thank you so much for joining me on A Slice of Life R on 938 Live for some DIY motivation. My guest today is Patrick Tan, a trained lawyer turned pilot, but he doesn't let his qualifications or occupation define him. He's also an entrepreneur, author, and passionate professional, a motivational speaker and trainer. And having already realized 2 of his childhood ambitions, he's now committed to helping individuals and organizations realize their aspirations. For more information, you can go to patricktan.com.sg. And that's exactly what we're talking about today, isn't it, Patrick? It's not allowing, any sort of role to define who we are as a person, because, each of us is so complex. There's so many passions within us and so many personalities, and that itself already, and that also evolves over time. And the person that we are at, say, 18 or 22, 25 can be radically different from the person that we are at 35 or 40. And I'd like to revisit that question or that issue that Yan, a caller earlier, brought up. She was talking about Gen Y. And from what I understand from what she was talking about, she was observing that Gen Y people from 20 to perhaps early 30s seem to be these days, like what we're talking about, like fulfilling yourself. And she's worried that that means erosion of traditional family values. That means you don't care about your family or family obligations, things like that. What was your response to that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, well, we are, as society develops, slowly evolving, and this necessarily comes as a result of our economic growth and the fact that a lot of our basic necessities are taken care of. When you don't have to tend to the farm, when you don't have to forage for food, you can start to think further down along Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And as a result, of course, there would be that necessary worry, especially from the older generation who had to struggle for survival, who had to fight for the basic necessities in life, that the new generation would have taken all of that for granted and put everything asunder. But, at least for our society-wise, I'm quite confident, coming from Generation Y myself, that most of us have very tight, strong family backgrounds, and we grew up with strong family values. And as you were saying, Eugene, just a couple of minutes ago, about how we do evolve. The person that somebody is at 18 or 20, it's not for the rest of their lives. They change and they evolve. And as an older generation person comes into contact with that change and that evolution is going to be uncomfortable. And it's not something that, instead of fighting against, perhaps we can roll with, adapt with, and accept that through that evolution, that the greater goodness and greater happiness will come about as a result.
And that's why also I think, Patrick, it's very important, first to focus on yourself and what's within you instead of thinking about external things, external societal expectations and what you observe outside of you. Because ultimately, if you critically examine the person that you are and think about maybe the time when you were at that stage, when you were adolescent and when you were in your early 20s, the kind of turbulence and turmoil you yourself are going through, struggling to find who you are as well. And it's no different for the young people of today, actually. It's a different zeitgeist, as we said earlier, a different kind of attitude or spirit or outlook of the time, maybe. But ultimately, basically inside, we all struggle with the same kinds of issues and demons. And so we all have to find that point where we can truly say we know what we want, we know who we are. And then if we are fulfilled and happy, we can then think about how to spend time to fulfill the people we care about or the rest of society.
Absolutely. And I think we were speaking about it off air, and I shared with you my own personal experience. And I'll share this with you as well. Because when I decided to switch from the practice of law to become a pilot, my own father actually didn't speak to me for about a month. And as painful as that may sound, it took him a while, but he came around to understanding what was the logic behind some of my decisions that I made in my life. And he too grew. And right now, I can say that today we have a much deeper and much more meaningful relationship than perhaps had I just stayed on. Because perhaps if I had just stayed on doing something that I wasn't entirely happy with, I would have resented him silently as a result of that. So as your child grows, or as the people that you who are close to you, they grow and they develop and they evolve, we shouldn't hold and project our inner desires on them. They're not like a movie screen or a sounding board where our own unfulfilled or fulfilled desires should be projected upon them. Everybody is their own individual person, and I think I was speaking to Eugene about it off the air for a while, that the ancient Greeks used to believe that there were several selves within a person. The self that interacts with society at large, the self that interacts with the parents, and the self that interacts with the people that you work with. And the important thing is that all of them must be in harmony for a person to be whole. And the ancient Greeks used to believe that if any one of these persons was never in harmony with the rest, the outer body and the society as a whole would suffer. So So instead of, I guess the most important thing to crystallize is that we shouldn't, and this is the message which we hopefully can get out to everybody, is that we shouldn't allow ourselves to be confined in any one role. Just because you're trained as a doctor doesn't mean that you are a doctor. You are who you are. Being a doctor is just something you happen to do.
And thank you so much, Patrick, for coming. It was such a pleasure talking to you today, and I could go on and on for hours and hours. It's one of those conversations today, but we'll definitely have you back to talk more about this topic or any other topic that you usually share about here on A Slice of Life. Patrick Tan is a lawyer turned pilot, professional motivational speaker and trainer as well. More information over at patricktan.com.sg. If you have something to share with my listeners as well, do get in touch with me. It's Eugene at mediacorp.com.sg. I'm Eugene Lowe. This has been A Slice of Life on 938 Live.